My wife might have cheated with her friend's ex-boyfriend. Hi everyone. I heard it's very helpful to be here and I hope so. I think something from my wife's past has come back to haunt me. I want to talk about it with strangers because even though I think my wife having a physical affair, there's still a chance I'm overreacting. With everything going on, it looks like my wife's been unfaithful. Me, M31, and my wife, F30, live in Detroit and have a great marriage. About 11 years ago I was visiting my wife at her parents' house and her best friend got in my face and asked me why I didn't put a ring on my wife's finger yet. While her best friend, we'll just go and call her, Mandy, was grilling me, my wife wasn't stopping her, so I got the point pretty quick. Since I cared about her so much, I was happy they felt that way. After that I started to make moves to one day marry her. 2 years after that we got married and we now have 2 beautiful daughters. Getting married was one of my happiest days and I had always planned one day to be a good husband and father. My wife wanted a pretty big wedding and a lot of people attended. We even got some of our relatives from Puerto Rico to attend. Me and my wife wasn't rich, but we were good providers and our kids were always good. My wife was always a great person. She's smart, fun, and she has a great sense of humor which you don't expect from gorgeous women like her. She was a good mom and our daughters who are 7 and 4 years old love and respect her. Our oldest even acts like her. This is something I would always tell her. And she was gorgeous. I loved her pretty smile, her brown eyes and especially her amazing body. She was the type of girl who struggled a little to put some jeans on, and whether it was in a sexy dress or some tights, it was visible on her slim figure. She always loved how she looked and it caused my mom to believe she had an ego. She might be right, but I never really minded. I work in a renovation project facility and my wife owns her own nail salon. This never surprised me because she always was a fashionista, which she disagreed about. My wife was always up on the latest trends and had to have everything new. Whether it was the new iPhone, new heels, name brand clothes, she had to have it. This made roll my eyes, but it was her money so I couldn't say anything, until she became a parent and it made her have to cut back. Instead of keeping up with the glamour girl life, now she focuses on our daughters more. She's now used to the last year model iPhone and cut back on designer clothes for Disney characters our daughters love wearing. The only time she wears her good clothes is on holidays or vacations. Even though that's the case, I had to splurge less as well. It don't matter because our kids are more important and my family is my priority. Everything seemed okay, but now I'm seeing problems after me and my wife ran into her old friend's ex. Me and our family was at the supermarket buying some groceries. Our oldest reminded about her Pop-Tarts and my wife told me to with her to get her favorite ones. After finally making her decision on a new flavor, we came back out the aisle to see my wife laughing and talking to some guy. When my daughter interrupted them with the Pop-Tarts, my wife introduced me to him. She said this guy apparently was the ex-boyfriend of her old friend, let's just call her Tasha. At first I couldn't remember who Tasha was, then I remembered she used to work with Tasha at some old job before my wife had started up her own business. This guy, we'll call him Trey, seemed happy to see us and was friendly to us, so I didn't mind at first. Trey and my wife caught up a little bit more and it was awkward to see her smiling all in his face and seemed a little too happy to see him again. After waiting patiently, I signaled it was time to cook dinner and Trey laughed saying it was good to see us. On the ride home my wife told me how surprised she was to see him at the supermarket. She said she was more surprised that Tasha and Trey had broke up. I asked how long it was that she spoke to Tasha and she said about 4 years. After hearing that I had thought to myself that they definitely lost touch. At first I thought that would be the last that I had heard about Trey, but as time went by I noticed that Trey and my wife kept in touch. They would talk on the phone and also on her social media. He would mention me every once in a while, so I thought nothing about it because I felt included. They started talking more frequent and the conversations got longer even up to after hours. But I started getting suspicious when Super Bowl Sunday came around. On the day of the Super Bowl, my wife was talking to Trey on the phone when I asked her a question. After answering me, a little while later she came to me and said Trey wanted to talk to me. Surprised, I took the phone and asked him what's up. He asked me was I going to watch the Super Bowl and I told him I planned to. When he asked me who I was going for and said sarcastically the Lions. Laughing he said he was too, and offered to watch the game with me. I told him that would be great, but we were going to have a bunch of kids over and I doubted he would want to deal with that. Laughing he said never mind, and I passed the phone back to my wife. I thought that was the end of it, but a couple hours later my wife came back and said Trey wanted to talk to me again. He said if I could get away there was a Super Bowl party a friend of his was having and I could go and watch it with them. My wife told me she would call her brother and tell him to pick up his kids earlier and we could go a little late, and I decided to go. After her came and got his kids, me and my wife got ready to go and got there around the halftime show. While talking to everybody I understood that the party was being thrown because somebody was a die-hard Cincinnati Bengals fan. The person who threw the party argued with who would win and wanted the Bengals to lose. He definitely got his wish and the Bengals lost to the Rams and it stopped the guy from being a loudmouth. After having a good laugh at this guy's expense, we all just enjoyed the get-together. It was at this point where I started to get suspicious because of how my wife was interacting with Trey. I didn't like how she was all in his face and I felt left out in the conversations. I thought it was because I wasn't being social enough and put myself in the conversations more. At some point I asked him about why him and Tasha broke up. Trey said he and Tasha was just casually dating, they weren't really serious back then. My wife laughed and said she was surprised because Tasha really liked him. After a while, said I had to go and get another Smirnoff and walked in the porch where the cooler was. After I was mingling with some people on porch, I went back in the house. Going back in the house I was looking for my wife and saw them talking in a corner. I was about to walk over to them, but I felt a weird vibe about how they was talking. He was a little too close to her and was acting all predatory with her. I paused and stayed out of sight to see what was going on. He held my wife's hand and she was giggling all shy. After that she walked into the kitchen and he followed her while looking at her body. All I could say was, what the heck? But then I moved a little closer to get a good look in the kitchen. Standing by the sink my wife was talking to some girl and her back was turned away from Trey. While talking to my wife the girl looked at Trey and could see that he was looking at her. I think she told my wife, and my wife looked back and smiled at him. Turning back to the girl she continued their conversation knowing that Trey was looking at her body. Usually I love the way my wife dresses but now I was feeling very paranoid. My wife would talk to the girl then look back and smile at Trey as he continued to take glances at my wife's body in her yoga pants. And my wife wouldn't budge, she would just look at him like she was saying, I know you want to do me. Even though they would try to play it off they will go back to looking at each other and you would notice if you were paying attention. All I could think was I hope I'm not seeing what I think that I'm seeing. After the girl said something to my wife she followed her back into the living room and she ended up seeing me. She asked me what the guys on the porch was talking about and I told her nothing much, and that I was ready to go. She said she wanted to stay longer but I reminded her that her brother was still with our kids waiting on us so he could leave. After we said goodbye to Trey and everybody we went back home especially since we both had to work tomorrow. Riding back, I had to tell her what I saw. In the car I told her it looked like Trey was trying to hit on her and she acted like I was crazy. She laughed it off and said I was wrong. I left it alone, but I wanted to start paying more attention to them after what I saw. He was definitely looking at her body. The more I paid attention, the more suspicious I had noticed she was acting. She always had her phone, she always brought up Trey to me and to her best friend Mandy. Then she started handcuffing her phone, talking all the way to early in the morning. One night I asked her was she still talking to Trey, she just shot me a look and said she was. After that, she hung up the phone after about 5 minutes. After a while, I got tired of her talking so late and asked her to talk in the daytime with him and her excuse was she talks to Mandy then. And when I told her it was real inappropriate to talk to Trey so late at night she'd laugh and say I'm acting paranoid. Everything I'd try and say she would dismiss it and say I'm worried about nothing. All my questions did make her stop bringing up Trey however. I guess she thought it would stop me from getting all upset but it didn't. 2 days ago made me believe the worst. On my wife's off day she said she was going over her friend Mandy's house to do her mom's nails. Since I knew about this a couple days ago I really wasn't suspicious. Later on that night my youngest daughter asked me if we could eat pizza, but I told her that her mom was cooking dinner. She made a big fuss about it, and since I was in the mood for pizza as well, decided to call my wife and tell her she didn't have to cook anything. When I called my wife it went straight to voicemail. I tried again and the same thing happened. I had to ask myself why the hell was her phone off and that this never happened before. I let half an hour pass and her phone still went to voicemail. After that I decided to call Mandy. When I called Mandy she actually picked up. I asked her was my wife there and she said she left. I said I thought she was going to do Mandy a favor and do her mother's nails for her, but she said she got a phone call and just left. I asked her who called and she said she don't know, but she was mad that my wife told Mandy to tell her mother to come by her nail salon tomorrow. This surprised me because Mandy was like a real sister to her, and to hear that this happened was just FD up. After hanging up with her I called around and nobody called my wife, so to me this left only Trey. I got so angry I couldn't believe this was happening. At the Super Bowl party Trey told us where he stayed, but I didn't know the address, only the street. If my wife was there I knew he was doing her. After grabbing my keys I was just about to walk out the door when I remembered my kids were still in their room playing. Grabbing my phone I called my mom to see if she could babysit for a while, but she didn't pick up the phone. My best friend, let's call him Marcus, was my last option, so I called him up. When he picked up, I asked him what he was doing and he said his girl was cooking dinner. I told him I was about to ask him for a favor and he asked me what it was. I told him never mind, it was too big of a favor, but he asked me again, so I told him I think my wife was cheating on me. After telling Marcus this he went silent like it was the last thing he'd think I'd say. He asked me was I serious and I told him everything. He said that he couldn't come and watch the kids, but I could bring the kids to him. This annoyed me because I lived on the other side of town. After getting the kids ready to leave it took about 30 minutes to get there. After getting to Marcus, he asked me did I know where Trey lived. I told him the street and he looked at me like I was crazy. The street Trey lived on was a long avenue and he asked me was I really going to drive all the way down the street to find them, and I said yeah. When I was about to leave, he stopped me and told me to go in his car. He said if I'm wrong and they see my car, my wife could call me a crazy husband and at least they won't recognize his car right off. After handing me the keys he told me don't do anything crazy in his car. He asked did I want him to come with me and I said no, it's already FD up, he's involved. He took the kids and I made my way to try to find my wife. Hopefully I wasn't too late and I could bust her in the act, but I hoped I was really wrong about this. But my instincts as a man still bother me. After a long ride I made it down the street Trey lives on. Slowing down I tried to look for my wife's silver Kia. It was a terrible neighborhood, but at this point I couldn't care less. All the suspicious BS my wife was doing led me to this. I was really hoping I couldn't find her car here, but eventually I did. Not only did I see her car, but I saw her and Trey as well. She was wearing a pink sweatsuit and Trey had on nothing but a white beater, some shorts and some flip-flops. She looked like she was getting ready to leave and I couldn't believe what I saw. I mean, the guy had practically no clothes on. And I didn't like how he was again too close to her. Driving past I threw a fit in the car. I didn't have any other explanation except he was doing my wife. And I bet magically her phone works now. Not only did I catch her all hugged up with this guy, now I had to try and beat her home. When I got home, I was surprised to see that me and the kids beat her home with time to spare. After putting the kids to bed I decided to wait up for my wife to come in. Almost 40 minutes later, she came in the door and she was acting unhappy to come back. Looking over at me, she walked right past me and went in the bedroom. Her not saying anything really blew my mind. I walked in our bedroom immediately and asked why her phone was turned off, and she told me that she had never turned it off. She said her phone died and she had to charge it up. I asked her where she was and she said she already told she was over Mandy's house. I told her Mandy said she left, and she brushed it off like she was irritated. She said that don't mean she wasn't there, and it just blew me away that I was going through this right now. I asked her did she leave Mandy to be with Trey, and she hesitated for a minute before saying yeah. I asked, she didn't say anything and she told me it didn't matter. She said she's tired of me having a problem with Trey and she just wanted to leave this alone because she was tired. She asked me did the kids eat and I told her we went out to eat. Not even asking questions, she went back in the living room to watch TV and be on her phone. After that night she not the same wife that I knew. Now she don't talk to me, she always texting on her phone in the dining room. And she always look at me like she wants to get away from me but she can't. This is BS because she's acting like I did something to her when all I do is cater to her. And whose battery dies in the middle of the day. I really don't know what to do and I need to make a decision on my gut feelings. I don't know for if she cheated, but her behavior has been a bunch of red flags. I hope I'm overreacting, but the signs are there, especially at the Super Bowl party. They've been talking all day, he's been looking at her body at a party and she's allowed it, and now he's meeting her at her house sneaking that he has to be doing it to her. I will try and update once I find something solid, but I really need to know if I'm overreacting. Comments. 1. Wow, really wow. Pack her a bag and have her call Trey to tell him she is coming to stay. No remorse, no sorry and lies. Again wow. See a lawyer, let her know and have her served. If she pulls her head out you can always call it off, but the ball has to be in her court to fix this. Act quickly and act decisively is the only way to go. Letting it drag on will end disaster and pain. Good luck. 2. Do this but flip order. Lawyer up first and get all affairs in order. Collect evidence and give to lawyer. When you pull the divorce trigger, you want to be holding all the cards and have the kids squared away. 3. She cheated, and is still cheating. Walk away from her and set up co-parenting. Your kids are now being raised in a very toxic household. 4. He literally caught his wife at Trey's house and said Trey barely had any clothes on. Sounds to me like she went to his house and had sex, and then when he saw them outside, she was saying her goodbyes to him. 5. I am replying this in top comment because I think you really need to know this. Everyone is saying get a lawyer and leave her, and that is right. But there is also a very important thing that you should keep in mind, that if she try to talk sweet to you and apologizes of all sorts after you take a step towards leaving her, don't listen to her, just don't. You are in that position, and that is why if she make big promises your heart might melt, but I from here can tell she doesn't deserve a second chance from you and she will do it again. You and your kids deserve better. If she was getting bored romantically or any other reason might be that would have been solved easily, but she rather cheated, so just don't take her back after betraying the love of many years. What she does was just pathetic. 6. Best advice I can give is act like nothing is wrong. Make her believe you trust her completely. If you know her, sign into her Apple account. You can always turn on her location and share it with you to track her. Get an Mac and sign in to view messages and apps on her device. Keep the Mac in a private location where she doesn't have access. Put a GPS tracker on her car, and an audio recorder inside the car. Gather any and all evidence you can find. Get cell phone records from the month before you met her, AP of calls and texts both incoming and outgoing for every month after. Put audio recorders in bedroom, family room, kitchen, and bathroom. Ask an attorney about legality of putting video recorders in those locations in your home. Always record any conversation you have with your wife from this point forward. Especially if it involves her AP, find all the evidence you can. 7. They organized it together for the Super Bowl party. I cannot believe you did not work out why a bloke you hardly know worked so hard to get you to attend this Super Bowl party with your wife, who by the way was in on it up to her neck. Helping to continually pushing the agenda at every chance. Why do you think she was not only on the phone with him while you were supposed to be spending time with the kids? Not to mention all the other texting leading up to then. I actually suspect the supermarket meeting was a setup as well, and that you are well behind the 8 ball. The only option is to file the papers to see if she wakes up. What a dog's act from the pair of them to work on you the way they did, to get you to agree to go to the Super Bowl party. Well, the best way to kill a snake is to cut its head off. 8. There is a good website here. I would look at the 180 method and read some stuff from the website, it's free. Also lets you know you are not alone in this situation. Sorry man. Get some proof, because she will flip this on you and make you out to be the bad guy. She turned off her phone, but you can figure a way around that. Nanny cam, ring doorbell, etc. You paying the bill, you can see the number she is texting, not the messages, and figure it out who she texting at 2 am. There are ways to locate her with other items as well. So you can provide proof. Seek legal advice, and I don't mean your cousin Vinny. Get a lawyer that has a rep, listen to what they say and ask questions. They are on your dime, get every penny out of it. Ask about your kids, what works best for visitation, etc. You don't have to divorce, but they can give you a ton of great advice, and if needed, draw up paperwork for you. The house _ if are renting NBD, but if you are working to own, this is a big mistake a lot of guys make. Do not leave it, otherwise this could turn into a really bad thing. Get and keep all your texts with her, do not erase any of them until it's over. Once it's over, show the crew and her family what she did. They will lose the heat they have towards you and point it back at her. Remember, the woman you loved is dead, someone else is wearing her skin, and all those good things she was and did are over. You think she was cold when she got back, that was just a warm-up of what is about to hit you. Good luck. 9. Get yourself a lawyer and make sure you get all you duck in a row financially. You need to look after the kids and work to get out from under the potential cheating. She is not the woman you fell for, and it will only get worse. 10. Seriously? Brother? Come on. Really? First off, why did you let her entertain this man? Why did you go to his party? Are you truly that blind, or? What's wrong with you, to let her constantly disrespect you? You're being cheated on and you're fine with it. You have kids to think about, divorce her and kick her out, she can go with Trey without disrespecting you. Don't turn a blind eye. Don't stay for the kids, they don't need a disrespectful mother. You need to stop thinking she's someone she's not. You more than likely have been ignoring her disrespectful behavior for a long time. Your marriage wasn't perfect, she wasn't the perfect wife or mother. If she was, she wouldn't be destroying her family for Dick. If he were, he wouldn't be destroying his family over something like this. K. Do not give her any chances, she doesn't deserve it. Choose you. Choose your self-respect and self-worth. 11. She belongs to the streets. Collect all evidence for now and divorce her while using the other dude. You get money from both of them. You would also win the custody battle when you show proof of her infidelity and her keeping her kids with her brother just so she can have her affair, which shows irresponsibility.